Prince Edward Island is the smallest province in Canada, known for its stunning scenery, its red dirt, and even being the birthplace of Anne of Green Gables. But what you might not also know about PEI is that it's home to a lot of football, and with football comes referees, which is the topic of today's video. I sat down with the president of football PEI, Steve Lettner, to talk to him about their officials. Can you kind of describe your officiating fleet that exists on PEI?
I would say for the longest time, since I've been here on the island almost 12 years, I would say it was small, but over the last few years, it has grown. Our referee association has done a great job tapping into the younger kids. So I think we have a lot of young officials, a lot of new officials. We do a great job of promoting those. We have them, again, our island's spread out, so we are able to get officials on different parts of the island. So not everybody's traveling all the time, which I think has tended to help out a lot. But I would say our fleet is definitely growing and getting younger.
Can you briefly describe the football landscape in PEI?
The football landscape is growing, that's for sure. From the eastern to the western part of the island, we currently now have football, which is great. First time we can say that. Whether it's flag or whether it's tackle, we now have football moving across the island. So it's definitely growing and it's getting bigger once again, which is great to see.
PEI's officials have made a splash at the local, national, and even international level. We're going to dive into each area one by one here. First up, a local legend had a very unique and heartwarming experience while officiating recently.
My name's Chris Halliwell, and I've been officiating tackle football for 31 years.
A PEI first, I'm told, is that you actually had the chance to officiate a game with your grandson being in the game. Can you tell me a bit about that experience?
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. I mean, we only have here, I'd say about a dozen tackle referees on PEI. For the longest time, we only had a couple of teams on PEI. So forever it was 6 referees, and we did pretty well all the games for, I don't know, my first 10 years anyway. And then in the last 10 years, it really grew. All the leagues grew. I had 2 daughters who didn't play football. So my oldest daughter had 2 sons, and her oldest guy, he's now 11. So he started playing tackle football last year. U12 has been around on PEI for probably the last 5 years. And my grandson started playing. So I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll do it, but I want to do his games because I want to see him play football.
That's great. Kind of 2 for 1. You get to watch your grandson play, but also be the official there. That's fantastic. Are you gearing him up to be, the next referee? One of the 13th referee on PEI, maybe?
We'll see. I don't know. Right now, he just kind of fell in love with it. The U12, he played at Charlottetown last year, and they did a really great job of allowing all the kids, no matter, what their physical attributes were, to play different positions, from line to defense to running back. So I think where he really fell in love with it, and it was in that first game, they handed the ball, they put him in the backfield and handed him the ball. And he went the full distance for a touchdown.
Oh, no way. That's fantastic. Taking a step back now from this game, just going about yourself, how did you start officiating?
In high school, I was going to become a father. So when I finished playing football, I always wanted to coach football, but I just couldn't with a young child. I had to work all the time, do whatever I could to get by. So I ended up deciding to referee because it didn't take up as much time. It was one-day commitment as opposed to, 5 to 6 if you were a coach.
Now, you said you've been officiating for 31 years, I think you said, for tackle. Can you describe a bit of the football community, overall?
If you go way back, there was probably 4 guys when I joined refereeing football. They just called what they knew. I don't know that all of them followed rule books and stuff, but then there was Rob St. Pierre and Danny Como, who were really pushing to take officiating to the next level. So they were recruiting guys. So myself and another friend and a couple other guys got into it. And then we started actually studying the rule book, taking officiating courses, and they did a great job. I mean, Rob's been doing it longer than me, and he's still here. It's grown each year. We've added some guys. Some guys were in it 4 or 5 years, and then, they get busy with life and they move on to other things. There's a core group of guys though now, I'd say 10 of the guys we have been there 12 years or more each.
Wow.
We have a couple of 30-year guys that are reffing football, and some guys that aren't really that old, to be honest. When you hear 30 years, you think, oh, some old 60, 70-year-old guy, but they're, I'm 50, and these other guys are at about the same age or younger. So
nice. Wow. So a lot of experience in the handful of folks that you do have. That's fantastic. Going on to the next question. Last question here, Chris. What's your favorite part about officiating? Why, after 31 years, do you convince yourself and your family, hey, I'm going to keep going?
I'd have to say it's probably the camaraderie with the officials that we do it with, and the fun. I have fun doing it. I love football, obviously. That's up there too, but it's the guys I do it with, the core group of guys. Like, they're awesome guys. That's probably the main reason, because of that and my love of the game. So I think football is the ultimate team sport, and all of our guys played football, all of our officials, and I think that kind of translates into the officials too. Like, it's a team thing. Like, we're the third team out there, and we support each other, we help each other, and it's awesome.
What a lot of people might not understand about the officiating community is the competition that inherently exists within it. Just like players and teams, officials are also competing to be the best in order to get assigned bigger games or get selected to go to tournaments. Another official in PEI knows this all too well, from being on the provincial team as a player one year to now attending national championships as an official.
My name is Henderson, and I have been officiating football for 8 years now.
Do you do mostly flag football, or do you tackle as well?
I'm still a tackle player for the local college, so I mainly do a lot of flag and the occasional tackle game.
Well, you kind of just mentioned it there, but my understanding is that you started as a player. You played, I believe, for your provincial team at some point. I believe I've officiated you. Can you briefly go into your career as a player and any highlights that you remember?
My memory's a little shoddy, so highlights are a little tougher, but I started playing flag when I was 7 because it was just brought back to the island. I was mainly a defensive player because I struggle at catching the ball. I won a couple Defensive Player of the Year accolades throughout my years. And I also played tackle football, where I played primarily the linebacker and even played for the U16 and U18 TPI Atlantic Bowl teams every year that I was eligible. I didn't play provincial flag until U18, where I can't remember if I played 1 or 2 years. And I played 1 year at U20 with the national tournament being hosted on PEI. Did not accomplish much as a provincial athlete, but I was there.
So you've been officiating for quite a few years. What made you start? Like, you're a player, you're playing the game a lot, and then what made you want to transition into being an official?
Yeah, so I took an interest in officiating because we had a lack of referees on the island at the time, and I thought I could do a better job. I quickly learned that I was wrong. It's quite a different view as a referee than as a player. Everything just seems so black and white as a player, where as a referee, there's so much gray area, right? I really enjoyed officiating despite being yelled at a few times, but I stuck with it, and many of those same coaches that yelled at me often now come to me and thank me for officiating their games and ask if I'll ref more of their games.
Unfortunately, we think we're often seen we have to be perfect from day one, right? So you've obviously found that, and I appreciate you admitting that I wasn't perfect from day one. No one is, right? So that's great. With your years of experience officiating, years of playing both flag and tackle, you've seen now success at the national level. You've been invited to a couple national tournaments. You've been to 2, both at Kingston, for the Elite Youth Flag Championships. What was that first, like, when you first found out you were going? Take me through that moment. How were you feeling? Were you excited? Take me through it.
I had been asked the year before by Rob St. Pierre if I was interested in going to Winnipeg for the Flag Nationals. I had to turn it down because I was taking summer classes. I made sure that for the next following years, I didn't take summer classes so that I was available. And so he asked me if I would go, and I said 100%, absolutely. I'm so glad that this is still an opportunity for me. And I was really excited, but I was also super nervous because I still felt really young and out of place. Like, I didn't feel like I belonged. And at that first tournament, the report that was sent in for how I performed as an official, it spoke to that a little bit. It said that I wasn't interacting enough. And so this past year, I wasn't as nervous. I knew what to expect. I had the jitters out of the way. And so I just tried to interact more with athletes, coaches, keep it fun for everyone type of thing.
Nice. That's fantastic. And I mean, I was lucky enough to be able to watch your final game, that U14 bronze game. I know those are tough and challenging games, but I think those are the games you grow the most from. And I think I even messaged you after, like good job. Like, I was super proud of you watching that game, because that game that's almost as tough as they come. And I thought you did a fantastic job in such a tough environment. And finally, Jake, you've kind of talked about like how you felt, but when it comes to you've participated as a player, now you're participating as an official, with that shift in mindset, can you describe just like what the experience is like, maybe outside of how you were feeling, but what's the experience like at these tournaments from an official?
It's very welcoming. Like, it's a very friendly environment. The officials are fantastic. The staff is great. Like, I spend a lot of time interacting with the staff. Even when I'm not reffing this year, I spent several games talking with the scorekeepers and hanging out with them. And everyone's there to watch football. Nobody has any stakes in the game. So we're all just there to see what these athletes can do. And my gosh, are these athletes some fantastic athletes. I was never that good.
And you get arguably the best seat in the house, and you get to be a part of the game. So I guess take me through, like, how does it feel to be a part of, you know, these big, like, national level games? Like, you're seeing the best athletes in the country, and you're not just watching from the sidelines or on a stream, you're on the field.
I find that you almost have to, like, separate yourself a little bit. Like, you're watching these games, and at some points I've caught myself going, oh yeah, I'm an active participant here. I can't just watch. So yes, I'm seeing these athletes compete, but at the same time, you have to pick them apart almost. Be like, what mistakes are they making here? Could this be a penalty? Is it impacting the play? It's a fantastic seat. You get to see lots, but it's a different mindset than like a fan just watching the game, which is why I like to take those times when I'm not officiating to sit with the scorekeepers and just watch the game.
My final question would be, you're good at officiating, but what skills has that given you outside of the game of football?
As a person outside of football, it's definitely grown like my communication skills and dealing with issues. Like, you learn how to de-escalate, right? And the biggest thing that I learned at these tournaments is the best way to de-escalate a problem or a situation is to get ahead of it. Realize that this could be a problem and deal with it beforehand. Make jokes with the players, talk with them, talk with the coaches, make sure they know what's happening, keep it fun and friendly. These tournaments are, yes, they're serious, yes, they're important, but it's still a fun game. And if not everyone on the field, including coaches, players, officials, are having fun, then the game's not fun. And what's the point?
Being great at officiating tackle or flag is one thing, but what if you could theoretically master both? This next PEI official continues to make waves in both disciplines across the country.
My name is DesRoche from Prince Edward Island. I've been officiating tackle football for 14 years and flag football for 14 years as well.
Can you give us a snapshot kind of your career and how you got to this point?
I began officiating both flag and tackle in 2011. My involvement in refereeing began following a discussion with my coworker, actually, that's Robert St. Pierre, who was the president of the PEI Football's Officials Association, as well as the head referee for Football Canada on the non-contact side. From there, we also moved over to flag. It's kind of a natural progression here, just because the football community is so small. I attended my first flag national event in 2013 in Regina. And then I continued to work on my game and attended junior national events, gaining more and more experience kind of along the way. In 2019, the senior national flag event was born, and I attended that in Saskatchewan. I was named head referee for the women's game. And looking back at that, I think that's where I felt like my confidence really kind of took off. In 2021, I was selected to represent Canada at the World Championships for flag in Israel, but unfortunately, due to COVID, several countries, including Canada, wasn't able to attend. Luckily, I didn't have to wait very long before my next international opportunity when I was named as the Canadian official for the 2022 World Games. This was kind of a huge opportunity for us, being on the international stage and working with some of the best officials in the world. The World Games was in its last audition to be an Olympic sport, so all eyes were on us. There was a big learning curve there for me, just because the international rulebook and the Canadian rulebook was quite a bit different. After that, I started to take some off-field roles at the junior and college level here in Canada, such as referee-in-chief and new evaluator. And then this year, I was able to return back to do my second international tournament, which was the USA Football Summer Series and their Junior International Cup that was hosted in Los Angeles. This was an incredible experience. I definitely felt a lot more comfortable working at the international rule set, and I was assigned the side judge for both the U17 boys and the U17 girls gold medal game.
Hey everyone, pause. Sorry, hi, it's me. Editing the video currently, and as I'm doing my research, I realized that Nick actually has attended more tournaments as a referee on the flag side more than anyone else in the country, and as an RIC and evaluator, he's also the second highest as well. I don't think Nick knew this. I didn't know this until I looked it up, so kudos to Nick. I think that's a cool and important stat that shouldn't go unnoticed. But anyways, okay, now back to Nick in the video.
At the same time of working on the flag, I was working on my craft on the tackle side. Started settling in working mostly as a deep official, which kind of translates because it's a lot of passing in both games between the deep position and the tackle and on the flag. I was assigned my first Atlantic Football League, which is like junior college level final back in 2015 as a back judge. And then I continued to be assigned finals between 2015 to 2022. So 7 consecutive finals at that Atlantic Football League. In 2022, I achieved my level 3 as a field judge. And in 2024, I applied and was proudly selected to attend the U16 Eastern Regional tackle event in Antigonish. I was extremely lucky to work with some great refereeing chiefs like John Breton and Kevin Nickelborough. Here's where I started to that even if they are different games and different rule books, there's a lot of the same skill sets and principles that apply to both flag and tackle. This year again, I was chosen to attend my second Eastern Regionals, where I was lucky again to work with some great officials and learn from some experienced refereeing chiefs like Bob Armstrong and James Beeler. In both cases, I was chosen as to the gold medal crew 2024 as a back judge, and in 2025 as the down judge.
We know the games are very different. The disciplines are quite different. But on the officiating side, you've mentioned some similarities, but how do you approach each discipline a little differently?
I would highlight the complexity in the penalty application, as well as the difficulty of the Canadian kicking game. At the same time, going back to a lot of similarities, while there are more players on the field and tackle, a huge part of officiating is knowing your keys, either pre-snap and post-snap, having strong mechanics, and refereeing the threat. So I feel like those principles apply to both tackle and the flag game. Being able to read football plays, which is something that's very dynamic, is a requirement on both sides. The experience of working high level on tackle and flag is applicable, and it really translates to both games. Lastly, I would say a big part of officiating is communication. Working both games at a high level, continuing with working with professional coaches, players, it's really taught me how to communicate on and off the field, and being able to work as a team and build chemistry within the crew in such a short period of time.
You mentioned when going through your timeline that you've come back to RIC, you've come back to evaluate. What is your approach when you go to a national tournament as an RIC or as an evaluator? Because you're not evaluating these level 1 new officials. You're evaluating officials who are good enough to be selected for these tournaments. So how does your approach kind of change, and can you take me through that with officials who are already quite good?
So when I returned from the World Games in 2022, I really made it a mission of mine to share my lessons learned and improve the flag officiating level across Canada. So that's why I began to take these roles as referee in chief and evaluator. I like to begin the tournament by getting the referees as comfortable as possible, because they're coming into a situation where sometimes they may be new to, right? Whether that's a new tournament or new level, a new speed of the game. I like to challenge the officials pre-tournament. I try to give rarely occurring situations and challenge them not just to read the rule book, but also to understand the spirit of the rule, to get a deeper knowledge of the game itself. Early on in the tournament, I try to really build the confidence of the officials while also addressing the bigger issues and promoting crew chemistry. And then as the tournament kind of continues on, I try to refine the smaller things with a focus on mechanics, just to get us in that right place at the right time to make that right call. All these officials know the rules like the back of their hand. It's about giving them small tips, tricks, giving the officials the tools to use as they see fit to provide them an environment for success.
Now, Nick isn't the only person with international officiating experience. In fact, when flag football was in its infancy in this country, there was one person leading the charge when it came to all things officiating, setting the groundwork and standards that we still build off of today. If you know flag football in Canada, you know my next guest. And yes, he's from PEI.
Hi, my name's Robert St. Pierre. I've been officiating tackle football for about 32 years. And flag football for 17.
Robert, you've been involved with 5-on-5 flag football pretty much since it started, or really picked up momentum in Canada. And you've kind of been the go-to person when it comes to all things officiating when it comes to 5-on-5 flag. So how did you start that journey, and how did you kind of become the guy when it came to that?
I had contact with Football Canada since forever with tackle football. And just through communication with Football Canada, I had picked up that flag football was coming to Quebec, and they were hosting a world championship. It was 2008 And when they told us it was in Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu, that's my hometown. That's where I grew up. That's where I actually started playing football as a kid and into CEGEP. And so I asked the executive director back in the day who was organizing things, because I had some contacts with football. When they mentioned the lead on the organizing committee was a gentleman, we just knew him as Junior. I can't even remember his full name now because everyone just called him Junior. And I said, oh my God, I know this guy. So I reached out to Junior back in the day and I said, I'm going to be in Saint Jean for vacation. If you need a hand, we just started up flag football here in PEI. And he said, for sure, they were looking for help because, believe it or not, the rule book was 6 pages long.
Wow.
And it was all in English. So there were some bilingual guys on the committee, but again, to understand the rules, I went down to help them translate and officiate. And that's where I started. I think there was 12 teams from around the world that came. It was very interesting. It was really exciting to get back to my hometown and to see some old guys that we knew. And so that's how it started for me, officiating flag football at the world stage. Yeah. It was such a success. And I think Canada, we had such a great ability to host. Everything worked out so great. They asked Canada to host again. And in 2010, it was in Ottawa. So I was invited to come and help organize, from an officiating point of view, the 2010 World Championships in Ottawa. And it took off from there. The executive director asked me to sort of lead the charge in non-contact officiating, and it's grown exponentially since then, for sure.
Well, you mentioned a couple World Championships. I mean, those aren't the only two you've been involved in. Do you remember all the international World Championships you've been a part of?
Obviously, the 2008 was the first, 2010 in Canada. But after that, I was fortunate to continue on. 2012, it was in Gothenburg, Sweden. In 2014, it was in Italy, just outside the south of Rome, I believe. And 2016, it was in Miami. So I was able to attend. Yeah, very fortunate to attend as an official 5 World Championships and really get to know a lot of other officials from around the world, and still stay in touch with them to this day about flag football, about officiating. So it was very fortunate, very, very lucky to have done that.
5 World Championships is insane. Now, do you have a favorite either tournament or moment from a tournament that you remember from one of those 5?
I think 2012, it was, you could really tell it was growing. I can't remember exactly how many teams, but it was way bigger than the Ottawa tournament. Obviously, being in Europe, travel was a lot easier for a lot of the European teams. I don't believe at this point they had any play down. So it was just an open championship for everyone to come in and play. And I think that one stands out because I got to bring my wife. My wife and I spent the week before the tournament in Europe. She got to see me at that level, at the world stage, officiating. She got to meet a bunch of the officials that I'd gotten to know over the last 2 or 3 championships. Martin Cockerell is one of them, Magnus, Tom from Japan. There's just some names that still that stand out, that it really made it really cool to show my wife what I'm involved in and how it's developing around the world, and not just what she was used to seeing here just in PEI at the local level. So
2016 was your last Worlds, and you kind of took a bit of a hiatus from the international stage. You're still obviously very involved in the national level. You went to Finland in 2024 in the World Championships, but not as an official. Can you kind of explain what you were doing there, what your role was?
My role of coming back to the international stage at the 2024 World Championships was to provide support and training and evaluation for our Canadian officials. Like any team, your goal is to make the gold medals. Well, it's the same thing for officials. As you officiate in a tournament or you officiate at different levels, you want to get to the gold medal game. Those are usually the officials that they are selected throughout a tournament who have shown themselves to be at that level and able to officiate the game in a very good manner. In order to help our Canadian officials, I was there to coach them, basically, and provide feedback and help them adjust to the international game, which runs on a totally different rule book than we do. although the basics are the same. But the big adjustment for our Canadian officials is the mechanics. They have a lot of mechanics that are very specific, and they want it done a very specific way. And it's to help our Canadian officials adapt to that as quickly as possible, because you only have a limited number of games to be evaluated on in order to be chosen for a medal game. So I was hoping to provide that support when I was there in Finland 2024.
You were the person going to all the world championships, and then after 2016, you stopped going as an official. Was that hard to step away, or was that like a plan?
It was important for me to develop our other Canadian officials, and that not only locally, but at our national tournaments, and to take those and evaluate those officials and then provide them the opportunity to go to international tournaments, just like I've had the opportunity. I think it's something that I don't think one person should go all the time. You should definitely provide that opportunity to others, because at some point I may not be there. You have to have others that you're mentoring, that you're training and bringing up through the system. And you can't do that just at a local or national stage, right? So you got to be able to provide them the opportunity and support that so that they can officiate at the international world championships also. So I think that was a big thing for me to be able to share that opportunity with others and not only send one person.
What do you notice is the biggest difference between maybe Canadian officials, good or bad, versus kind of the rest of the world, besides maybe our rule books and mechanics are slightly different?
But I think it's interpretation of the rules. I think the Europeans really play a non-contact game. They don't allow very much contact at all. It's really based on the ability to position yourself so that there's no contact. As here in Canada, US, and actually I've talked to Mexican officials, and they find it very restrictive in terms of that amount of contact that's called at the international stage. We allow a lot more here in Canada and the US because a player, they are so fast. The quality of the athletes at this level is amazing. So when they're making moves, they're reacting on a split second, not always taking the time to see if there's someone over their shoulder, to see if there's a player that could create that situation where the penalty will be called.
Now, coming back to Canada now, since your involvement in the first World Flag Championship, what's the thing you're most proud of?
The first one is standardizing our rule book across the country, especially when we came to national tournaments, when it used to be U15s, U17s. We used to get provinces coming across to play at these tournaments from across Canada, and they had all sorts of different rules going on. They had different rule interpretations, and I think it took a lot of teamwork to develop a standardized rule book, a standardized mechanics book that we could develop officials from across the country, teach them those, so that when we came to a national tournament, everything was very standard, and at least for the most part, and then they could go back and develop their officials back home and to the rule book that we had and the mechanics that we develop at those tournaments. I think the second thing I was most proud of over the years is developing officials, mentoring officials. And I think, honestly, to the point where we have had very good success at the international stage with Canadian officials that we've sent over at these tournaments. We've had some that have gone and done gold medal games and very often show very well at these tournaments. I think so. Mentoring and developing these officials from across Canada, I think, is probably the second thing that I'd say really the proudest part of being this official at the Football Canada.
Awesome. And I think, a lot of people don't realize, but back in the day, it was kind of the wild, wild west of the rule book back when our national tournaments would happen, correct? Like everyone would have wildly different rules?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, the differences in the rule book from across the country were substantial. The first few national tournaments, I remember, we would have a day to a day and a half of just rules review and mechanics review, where we're trying to show or at least teach the officials that are coming from the other provinces what we expect at a Football Canada tournament. Yes, every region, every province can have slight differences, But when you come train, or if you're officiating at the national tournament, this is the way it is. This is what we want called, and this is how we want it called. So it was, it was, the Wild West is a good analogy on that for sure, because everyone was interpreting, doing things different.
Coming back to you, Steve, at the end of all this, why do you think we've seen PEI officials do so well at the national and international stage?
I think, for one, they've enjoyed doing flag here on the island, seeing how fun of a game it is to not only play but also to ref. I've had the pleasure of reffing here on PEI with flag, and I think they love it. I think that our officials see it's a great opportunity to take their knowledge and go to other places, but also learn from some of these other referees when they go out. Our referees do a great job coming back and sharing what they've learned with the other referees.
Well, there you have it. Whether it's at the local, national, or international level, flag or tackle, officials in PEI continue to leave a large footprint in the overall football ecosystem. Because officiating is so much more than just blowing the whistle and knowing the rules. You know, it's about personal growth and development and learning leadership and being a part of something that's bigger than yourself. From local fields to international arenas, every game provides an opportunity to work on these skills, create some memories, and make a real impact. The community, the camaraderie, the challenge, it's all there waiting for you. And if this sounds like something that you might be interested in, contact your local officiating organization or your provincial sport body. Peace.